The first thing is we would like to tell everybody that Baruch Hashem, every day we were able to learn here in Montreal, the הבחירה on daily basis. And Baruch Hashem, there was a very big shtatfus from Anash, Nimim, and different people throughout the world, because today this way of technology of Zoom, so we were able to get many more people to participate in that. Before we're going to start this shir for tonight, I would like to say that the shir Milchas Beis HaBchira on Zoom will stop for now. We should all hope that the Mitzvah Hashem is going to be the sim of Golus. The Mele will already have the Beis HaMikdash after we learned for these 3 weeks, just to have the final idea how to build the Beis HaMikdash and what to do. We have the honor today to have a Choshev in German, Harav Michael Dahán, the Mora D'Asra from congregation Beis HaMedrash Nusach Ha'ari, and Mechanech in Chaimushka Seminary and more, and a very known lecturer all over the world, Harav Dahán, bevakasha.
Thank you. So as we are getting to the end of the shiurim in Hilchos Beis HaBchira, I thought it was appropriate that the shiur should be on one of the last halachas in Hilchos Beis HaBchira. So in Perek Ches, halacha Yud, after talking about the whole, all the kelim and all the inyanim Beis HaBchira, the Rambam talks about the Shmira. And he describes all the places where there were kohanim inside watching in the Beis HaMikdash. And then he says that uma'amidim in halacha Yud, uma'amidim memune echad al kol mishmaros hashomrim. We put one memune, one person in charge on all of the shifts of those who were guarding. There were different shifts. Veish harabayis hayanikra, and he was called Ish harabayis. Vayemchazer al kol mishmar u'mishmar kol halayla, and he was going over every post, every post where there was someone watching the whole night. V'avuka is dolkes lefanov. There would be some torches lit ahead of him. V'chol mishmar sheno oimed ve'oimer lo Ish harabayis shalom alecha. Every guard that was not standing, so the Ish HaRabayis would tell him Shalom Alecha, and that guard would not reply, so then he would hit him with his stick. And he would even have the right to burn the garments, to set that Kohen who was asleep, his clothes on fire. So people, to the point in which he would start screaming, and people in Yerushalayim would hear and say, what is that noise that we hear from the Azara? Kol ben Levi loike, it is the voice of Ben Levi who is being afflicted, ubgadav nisrafim, and his garments are being burnt, sheyashen al mishmartoi, because he fell asleep on his shift. Obviously, this is a little perplexing. First of all, we start at the very beginning. Every place throughout Hilchos Beis HaBchira and the same Maseches Midas, all those kohanim that were in charge of a certain thing, we call him a memune. One was memune on the selecting of the goyrel who's going to get what part. Another one would be memune on the tamid. There would be memunim, and we call it memune. Over here, even the Rambam begins by saying, "Ma'amini memune echad al kol mishmaros hashomrim." We nominate one memune on all the mishmaros, but here we give it a name. We give him a name. We call him Ish HaRabayis. So it's interesting. Why do we give it this name, Ish HaRabayis, out of all the memunim? Not just like a memune, like we mentioned before. But more disturbing than that is the methods of enforcing the guard by beating him with a stick and even burning his garments. So in Maseches Midas, this is at the very beginning of Maseches Midas, and over there the Mefarshim are asking the question, isn't there a problem about tashkis? You are burning a perfectly good garment for no reason. So that would be about tashkis. Some Mefarshim, the Rosh explains that there is a klal, hefker based din hefker. Being that, and what's the pshat in the reasoning of the Rosh, is that when we say Hefker Beis Din Hefker means that the power was given to the Beis Din to render whatever became Hefker, to render completely as non-existent. And therefore there is no issue in destroying it because it's non-existent. Some other Mefarshim asking on the Rosh, as Askanim is asking on the Rosh, so what? Hefker also there is a Yisur of Bal Tashchis. As a matter of fact, in Hilchos Bal Tashchis, the Alter Rebbe clearly writes that Bal Tashchis applies also on Hefker. So then what gives the right to the Kohen to destroy the property, to the Isha Rabbais, to destroy the property of this Kohen, of this guard, even if it was Hefker? So to understand this, we first have to talk about what is the origin of Bal Tashchis. The Alter Rebbe writes as a hakdama to Hilchos Bal Tashchis. First he talks about Hilchos Nizkei Haguf. And after he talks about Hilchos Nizkei Haguf, he says, כשם שצריך להיזהר בגופוי, שלא לעבדוי ולא לקלקלוי ולא להזיקוי, in the same way that one has to be careful not to damage and ruin his body, כן צריך להיזהר במאודוי. In the same way, he has to be careful with his belongings, שלא לעבדוי ולא לקלקלוי ולא להזיקוי. Not to ruin it, not to destroy it, not to damage it. And after that, the Alter Rebbe continues and he says, "Kol hamishaber kel yikar habegodim oiver belo yisaseh shneimar lo tashchis." After giving this preamble, this akdama, the Alter Rebbe says that anybody who's destroying his clothing or dishes or whatever is oiver in Bal Tashchis. So the Rebbe is saying that the fact that the Alter Rebbe is putting it together, and he's telling us in the same way that one is not allowed to damage his goof, the same way he's not allowed to damage his property, the Alter Rebbe over here is mechadesh, that all the dinim of Nizkei Haguf apply to Bal Tashchis. In other words, there are cases in which, not only in a way in which whatever makes it not allowed for the goof is also not allowed for property, but the other way around as well. In whichever condition it will be okay to be mazik his own goof or somebody else's goof, in the same way and under the same circumstances, it will be okay to destroy his property or somebody else's property. So, therefore, in order to understand the limitation of Bal Tashchis, we first have to look at the limitation of Nizkei Haguf. So the Alter Rebbe says that you're not allowed to deprive yourself of food because that's a tsar. However, you're allowed to fast if it is to make you do tshuva. And he explained, this tsar that you're getting from fasting is beneficial to you. It's beneficial because it's saving your life. So therefore it comes out that even though sometimes there is a tsar, but from that tsar comes a benefit, so that tsar is allowed. Then he continues also about hitting others. There is such a din that you're not allowed to hit your workers and your eved and so on. You're not allowed to hit them unless you made a t'nai before. Also, the Alter Rebbe brings it in Hilchos Nizkei Haguf, that if you're hiring somebody and you're telling him, I'm hiring you in one condition, that if you're going to slack off, I have the right to hit you. I'm going to hit you to put you back to work. As soon as the person agrees and accepts this condition, therefore then the balabas is allowed to hit him. Why? It's because he wouldn't get that job without agreeing on being hit. So therefore getting hit for not working is a toiva for him because that's what assures him the job. Strange, perhaps, thinking, but that is the way the Alter Rebbe paskin in Nizkei Haguf. A nezek is only if there is absolutely no purpose. But if there is a purpose, a benefit, so then it is actually actually allowed. Now, the same reasoning applies as well to Bal Tashchis. As the Alter Rebbe states that the laws of Niskei Aguf are the same as Baltashris. You're not allowed to cut a tree that gives fruits, even when you're besieging a city, which means even if it's a war that you're about to win, only by cutting these trees. You're not allowed to do it. However, it's written that you would be allowed to cut off a tree that is more valuable as lumber as it is as a food resource. In other words, if it is a tree that gives you fruits, and you could sell the fruits, you could eat the fruits, but if you were to chop that tree and use it as beams that are very strong, and those beams are a lot more valuable than whatever you yield in terms of food from this tree, you're allowed to. Why? Because the klal is that when the benefit outweighs the damage, so then it's allowed, and it's not considered Baltashris. So now that we have this equation between Baltashris and Niskei Aguf, we could understand this halacha that the Rambam brings about the Ish HaRabais being allowed to hit this worker, this kohen that fell asleep. Number one, the first reason why he's hitting him is, as it is brought actually in Ezras Ka'anim, Pirushon Mishnayos, is to teach him not to do it again. But that's not really enough, because even when you want to teach, the Rambam writes that you're not allowed to be meshaber kelim, to break dishes in order to instill fear in your family so they will act properly. You know, you're still not allowed. Elamai, you're allowed only because it's a way of tshuva. In the same way that Beis Din is allowed to give malchus, because it's a way of bringing the person to the tshuva. So therefore, this kohen fell asleep, and hitting him with his stick is something that's going to awaken him not to do it again or to do tshuva. So therefore, it's just like fasting. It's afflicting yourself for your own benefit. The same with burning his garment. Being that burning his garment, the problem will only be Baltashris. Baltashris doesn't apply when there is a benefit that comes out of it. The benefit in this case being that he will actually do tshuva and better himself, improve himself, not to fall asleep. The Rebbe brings another angle to this, and he says, alternatively, we could say that this kohen who took on to be a guard in the Beis HaMikdash accepted the job, knowing the condition that is written in the Mishnah that the Rambam brings in Halacha, that Reshus haya lo lisref es ksusai. The kohen took on the job knowing that if he falls asleep, he might get his garments burned, and he accepted it. So that it's exactly like the din of somebody who's hiring someone with that same condition, because that is what making it possible for him to get this job or this privilege of guarding the Beis HaMikdash. Now let's go back to the first question I asked, which is Ish HaRabais. One may take this explanation that we give as some kind of a carte blanche to go and start, if not hitting somebody who's doing something wrong, go and talk harshly to someone who's doing something wrong. If the kohen is allowed the Ish HaRabais is allowed to hit someone, a kohen who fell asleep, so then everybody should be allowed to see somebody who's doing something wrong, scream at him, yell at him, even hit him, burn his garment, whatnot. It's for his good. It's for his tshuva. It's going to improve him. It's going to be better for him. I know. I read it in the Rambam and I heard the whole biur, right? So the Rebbe says that's why this man has been called Ish HaRabais. We don't call him a memune like in other cases. We call him Ish HaRabais. And there are a few levels over here. Ish bichlal refers to midas. So it has to be a person with a good midas, not Adam. Adam is seichel, Ish is midas. That's what's brought nechsidus. So first of all, this man has to have good midas. Secondly, harabais. Har is brought in the Gemara about Avram Avinu, lo ki Avram shnei har, that about this place has been actually referred to as many different names by the others, and Avram Avinu called it Har. Avram is the epitome of Chesed. Avram is the Sheresh of all Chasadim. So first has to be an Ish that has within him that virtue of Har. Avram Avinu, Chesed. And Har HaBayis Bifrat is the Indian of Yerushalayim, Ki Ir Shechum B'la Yachdov, Oisa Kol Yisrael Chaverim. Bifrat that this man has to be a Kohen. The Rebbe brings a different theory in a letter to someone who wrote a sefer on this, Hilchos B'Sabchira, that Bepashtus he was a Kohen. So a Kohen is also the Indian of Ish HaChesed. So the Rebbe concludes that only a Ish Har HaBayis, someone that his name testifies on his good midah of Chesed, such a person will for sure find every way possible to reprimand somebody else in a positive way, in a friendly way. And would only resort to this hitting him with a stick or burning his garment when he knew that he tried everything and it didn't help. And he really means it for real. This is Ish Har HaBayis, is only about Chesed. He's for sure doing this in order to improve and help the other person, the other Kohen. Such a person with such midas has the right to act so harshly when it comes to reprimand. But people like us, no matter who we are, we know Ish Har HaBayis. So we have we don't have this option available to us. The only option we have available to us when you see somebody sleeping on the job, so to speak, not doing what he has to do, is to, first of all, ask ourselves, maybe you have the same Indian within me. But then to go over to the person B'darkei Noyam and B'darkei Shalom. And only B'darkei Noyam, B'darkei Shalom, you'll be able to have a positive effect on him, which in exchange will be Kamayim Panim El Panim. It will increase this Ava and Achdus Ir Shechum B'la Yachdov in all of amongst the Yidden. And then we'll be able again to have the Beis Hamikdash with the Shoimrim, not the Shmira because we'll be worried of anything, but the Shmira, like the Rambam writes in this Perek, a Shmira that is there only because of the kavod of Beis Hamikdash and the kavod of the Eibishter who is Shoichen Beis Hamikdash. They will be able to see it even before this Tisha B'Av.
Amen. Michael. I wanted to remind everybody that please tonight at 9:25 there will be a sim giving by Daniel Nathanblut. And also to remind everybody that in the Roy of the Rebbe, when you learn Beis Abchira, you should also do Tefillah Tzedakah, so everybody should give Tzedakah. In honor of all the Shiurim, the Rebbe shall take helfen. As this Tisha B'Av, we already know how to build the Beis Hamikdash because we had did the Rebbe's Heroy by learning Hilchos Beis Abchira. It should be Bepeil Mamesh, L'mata Me'asor Tzvachim, take it from Yad Mamesh, call to.